That was immediate. There's no countdown at all.
Are we in here? It's the book reviews. Back at it again. You thought we weren't coming back? So did we. But here we are.
No one believed us. Not even
What's
us.
up? I'm Cato. With me, as always, is Cicero, and we are here to talk about the politics of the day. Not really. We are here to talk about religion.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. We're back for
This should,
another.
theoretically, this should come out during election voting day, or tomorrow, which is 11/5, November 5th. What's that actually called? What's
Election Tuesday?
Is it called Election Tuesday?
I don't know. I don't care.
know.
But if
Anyway.
you're watching this while you're standing in the voting line, that sucks. Hope you get out quick. But here we are. How you been, man? How are things over in Rome these days?
They're pretty good, man. I will say, I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but this time of year, it feels easier to read. I don't know if it's because it gets dark so early. I feel like I have nothing else to do. Like, I got off work and it was already pitch black. Like at 5 o'clock here, dude, Central Time, whoever decided Nashville is going to be Central Time, it's just such a poor choice. Like, you get no benefits of being in Central. Like, dude, literally at 5 o'clock, it looked like it was 9 o'clock. It's so bad. So, I mean,
yeah, that's a bummer. And I like some things about this. I mean, I like it. I like the cold months more than the really hot months here in Georgia, but it does get dark so soon that it is kind of depressing. And like,
it's bad.
I don't know. I just
when
get
was it
tired
dark there?
so much sooner.
Like today? Did it get dark at like 6?
Yeah, I think about 6, maybe a little before or a little after.
Okay. I heard they're getting rid of daylight savings time. It feels useless. Like, I know it was a move back in the day for like growing crops, I guess. But what's the advantage currently of daylight savings time?
I don't know, man. It feels like it's like a population control thing just to get some people like off the board because, dude, it literally depresses people and rates go up. Oh, and there goes our monetization on YouTube for all that money we
Can't
weren't gonna
say.
get.
I can't wait to bleep that.
Yeah. So anyway, I do like that it's getting cooler. Fall time's best time of the year. Winter's probably third. Summer's the worst though. Summers are terrible here.
Really?
Shout out in the comments if you're from the South and you hate Southern summers because I can't stand it.
I mean, it's sweaty. That's for sure.
It's sweaty, and that's, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I hate sweating,
Especially
unless I'm
because you have
working.
to
If I'm
wear.
working, like, yeah,
You
I'll
got to wear
sweat.
pants, so that's tough.
Yeah, but
right?
working, it's like, all right, I'm working, like I'll sweat. But dude,
Yeah.
if I want to go outside, if I need to take the trash down to the end of the driveway, I don't want to come inside drenched and sweat.
Yeah.
But anyway, here we are. It's the book reviews, the organization that talks about books.
We're kind of up to date with this one a little bit.
We are actually, yeah. So today we are. I wonder if this is going to be backwards or if it's going to look right. I'm sure you can do something with technology to just put it on the screen. But we're reading,
for sure.
covering "The Fury of the Gods" by young John Gwynne. This is the third book in the Bloodsworn trilogy. I got this. I thought it was coming the day the book came out, but I realized it actually came out 2 days before. So I got an early copy, and it shows actually because there were a lot of grammatical errors in the beginning, but whatever.
I don't think you said that, and I will say I purchased every medium that you could, and that was not on purpose because of the merit this book has.
You got it in Braille?
Dude, I got the Audible, the Kindle. Like, I actually paid for the Kindle because I couldn't find it illegally on Ocean PDF. By the way, I'm going to give a quick plug to our sponsor, Ocean PDF. Okay. Trying to illegally download
that's your sponsor, just to be clear. If you can see behind me, I physically buy all my books.
Well, I physically bought it, but unfortunately I had it mailed to my parents' house in Georgia. So I had to buy every other medium. And so anyway, I had some free credits on Audible, so I guess that didn't count. But I will say I didn't see any grammatical errors. But the one thing that I didn't get to look at as much is the cover of this book and how ridiculous it is to the plot line, which we'll get into later. But
yeah, we will.
I mean, it looks sick. Don't get me wrong. This whole series, the covers are insane.
Covers are sick. I got so I only have the second one because I read your copy of the first one, but this is the second one. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the covers are sick. Absolutely. Those are tiny little people at the bottom if you happen to be watching this on the tube.
Which, I mean, I
I
don't know who
can't
did the
I
scale
can't tell. We'll
ratio.
get into it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, yeah, this is the third book in a trilogy. This is our first actual like book review since we've come back. And if you're watching this 20 years from now, we are in the second era of our page. You may be in the 53rd at this point when you're watching this, but here today we are in the second era of It's Lit book reviews after we took a good, what was it, 6, 8 month hiatus.
Yeah, we just had to refresh, man. Sometimes you just got to sit back, reflect, reanalyze.
Yeah, sometimes you have shit to do. You know, it is what it is. We're
Hmm.
busy guys out here. But if you're new or if you have missed us, you know, we cover books. We mostly cover, you know, history and fantasy, sci-fi, that kind of stuff. You know, you're not going to find cookbooks here.
Hmm.
Not that you'd be looking for that, but that's what we do. So we're going to get into
We do.
this one. Let us know how much you don't enjoy this in the comments and give us a thumbs down. And let's get into it.
Wh-
So,
What was your anticipation, by the way, for this book? Like before you read this,
okay, so
how
let's
hype were
just
you? It's
I was pretty hyped because
I think it
so
was too.
to lay the groundwork, and I think we covered both of these books earlier on the
I
channel, the
think so too.
first
Yeah.
two. I gave them both 5 stars out of 5. It was my first any John Gwynne that I had ever read, and I really enjoyed the first two books in the trilogy. Again, gave them a 5 out of 5. They're just really. I always rate books based on what they are. I'm not going to rate a book that's about dragons as if it's a book about George Washington. So
Yeah.
you know, that's the way I rate books. So I kind of, I think, rate highly compared to other people, but I did really enjoy them. So I was pretty excited for this. What about you?
Yeah, I will say I've read The Faithful and the Fallen series, which hopefully you read one day. And it's his first series, if I'm not mistaken. It's a quartet, 4 books. And this series has not been like even up to like, all right, if I'm not including this book,
Yeah,
in like my rating, like it was not as good to me, but it's more just the setup. Like the premise of this book, I'm not as interested in. But anyway, there's still like aspects that Gwynne does where he like really dives you into whatever world he's doing, like with all the pronunciations. He's gonna use
yeah,
all these words from Norse mythology that you're gonna have to look up, and I mean, it kind of is a cool historical perspective, and that's kind of niche for him. And then also action is like one of his main things, which we'll I'm sure get into as well. So I was excited, but I was hoping this book was going to deliver everything that I thought the first series I read did, and so I think I mean, I was excited. I had faith in old
and Johnny
JG,
Boy.
but
And to be fair, it did deliver in a lot of ways. But we'll get into that. So
I was
yeah,
excited.
yeah, same. And another interesting thing that is specific to you and I for this read was that were coming fresh off of
Oh, yeah.
Dark Age
It's a good
by
call.
Pierce Brown. It's the fifth book in the Red Rising series. If you're familiar with that series and you like it, you remember that book, it's insanely high paced,
Yeah.
high stakes.
The
The
scope
character
could not be
development is
different from these
it's
2
so
books.
different.
We're talking billions to 10,000 maybe. I don't even know how many people
Yeah,
live in
it's
this.
just different. It's just totally different. And not that, you know, we obviously read, I mean, I go from a historical biography to a fantasy, you know, so I feel like I'm used to,
Yeah.
you know, breakneck, you know, changes in what I'm reading, but it was a different, it's just the writing is so different, the scope is different. So that was kind of weird because we both loved Dark Age, which we should probably do a video on that.
Yeah, we
We
need
finished
to.
it before we started doing this again, but we both loved it. We'll get into Lightbringer soon if you're into those books, but that is something to kind of preface us
When
going
you
into
look
this
at
one.
it, there's like almost no political intrigue in Fury, whereas that's such
Yeah,
a
no.
huge part of Dark Age. And it's just also Pierce is gonna go places that John Quinn is just not gonna go. So I mean,
Yeah.
just that severity, it almost is Dune-esque. I will say, Dark Age,
Mm.
not to like this is not a Dark Age review, but the just with I mean, it feels like literally billions of lives are at stake.
Yeah,
Whereas, I
for sure.
mean, stakes are high in Fury, but it's just not the
It's
same.
just
But
very
anyway.
different. And
Mm.
so yeah, it maybe our view is a little tainted, and I feel like we're setting this up to
Tainted. That's a
give
good
this
word. Yes.
very terrible reviews. Oh yeah, that's a punny. That's punny here because of
If you've
tainted.
read this
Wow,
book, yeah. Mhm.
I did that on purpose actually. But yeah. So we did give it good ratings though. So I mean, on Goodreads, I gave it a 4 out of 5. What did you? I think you did as well, but you put in your review that you gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I could not give this higher than a 7. And it's just honestly, I would have given it lower if it weren't for circumstances going on in John's life. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, that had a
Let's see.
huge impact on my rating, which again, I don't know if you read the last part of this book, but, like, I mean, it made me, like, feel really sad. So, there's, like, the last couple pages, it's, like, kind of a shout out to his daughter and how
Oh
tough
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
been. So for
Yeah,
those
of
of you who don't
course.
know, John Gwynn's daughter died. I wanna say when he
Mm,
started, he was, like, a couple months into writing this book, so obviously that prolonged the release of this book,
mm-hmm.
and I genuinely think it affected this book. As far as it we'll get into it, but there's just certain things that didn't, I think, hold up to other standards, which again is justifiably so. But I do
Yeah,
have to say that that is still the reality of it. It's justifiable,
yeah.
but it's
I just
the
can't
reality.
tell if that's like a wild thing to say. I mean,
I mean,
I get what you're saying and I agree, but it's just like,
like,
wow.
respect, obviously, like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, trying to underplay any of that, but
No, I
again,
know.
for people who have no idea, because a lot of people, they're not gonna know, like, what John Gwynn's personal life is, because 'cause you'll just end with chapter 70 or 92, whatever it is. You're not gonna read the last part, but anyway, I think you need
Yeah,
to know
and
that going in.
yeah, and
Maybe
I
not.
also wonder, and I told you when I first finished the book, I've read a lot of books since I read the first two of this series, which I essentially read back to back. Um, and I don't know if I'd give the first two fives
Yeah.
necessarily if I went back now. I do think, even though I said a moment ago that I still feel like I rate things higher on average than other people, but I have gotten a little away from that to a degree. So I wonder if I would even give those the 5 stars that I gave them when I first read them.
I mean,
Um,
thank God he has that. I mean, shout out to John for doing the, like, "Hey, here's what happened in the previous books
oh yeah, I
before you
needed that. It's
start."
been so
I
long.
mean, that
Yeah,
without that, I mean, even with that, I was still like, it took me a while to get into this, to remember
yeah,
who I cared about and who I didn't care about. So that also impacted it too. I bet if we were to just read these back to back to back to back, I'm curious if it'd be a little bit
yeah. That's
better.
for sure. Yeah, we didn't do rereads. So again, it sounds like we're prefacing it to tear it apart. I still really enjoyed it, but there were,
Yeah.
I did want more in some ways. But to say the things that are great about this book, the fight scenes are great. Some of them are long, but they are great. Um,
Dude,
I
hear me
definitely
out.
do care about a couple of the characters a lot, but a couple of them, like the POVs, I was like, I'm just ready for this person to die, and I don't know if that's on purpose
I'm curious to
or
see
what.
who that is for you. See if ours align.
Yeah. Um,
Dude, I'm
but
gonna
it's
be
still a fun
honest.
read, and if you've read the first two, you definitely need to read it to see what
Oh,
happens because there is
oh,
a lot of closure. I will say that there's a
yeah.
lot of closure to the story and for the characters that you care about. And that's good. You
Yeah.
want that.
For sure. My honest take about this is the Transformers of fantasy. Like, that's how this felt.
How
Of
do you
like,
mean?
alright, like, let's just throw a ton of action and, like, hopefully you don't notice how bad the plot is, like, what I truly feel. Alright, bad, that was an
Mhm.
aggressive line, but you know what I mean. It's like,
Yeah,
alright,
I know
there's
what you
not a
mean.
ton going on plot-wise, but man, I'm gonna throw some really cool action scenes that you're gonna be like, "Wow, that was badass." But and then you're
Yeah,
like, "But wait, has anything actually happened?" Or like,
yeah,
and that's just how I felt. Whereas John's first series that I read, it was that like Transformers action, but then there's this like sleight of hand, like, oh wait, this group's doing what now? Whereas I think he tried to do that, which we'll get into it, I'm sure, the little twist at the end, but dude, they didn't
yeah. I mean,
land.
yeah, a lot of stuff just didn't hit the same as it felt like it did in the first two books, and I don't know what that is. I'm by no means a writer and could have not have
Yeah,
done this better, but something just didn't land. And again, I don't know if my reading was tainted by some of my previous readings. Because another thing is, I feel like I've been reading stuff like I've kind of been burning through stuff, so
yeah.
it's easy for things to blur together and you judge stuff based on book to book. But I mean, right now the book's sitting at 4.61 out of 5 stars on Goodreads with a little under 2,000 reviews. So I mean, if you
Little
go
that.
down, it'll show you like I mean, it's got 70% are giving it 5-star reviews. So
Yeah.
we're in the 21% group.
Yeah.
Um,
He's got 5
21.
stars worth of my prayers.
I mean, can we talk about one thing also? You texted me about and we'll talk about this issue that I have with a lot of fantasy books. But you said something and you were trying to say like the place that most of this book takes place, which is if I understand correctly, and I'm going to pull up the reference here. It's pronounced Vigrith or
It
Vigrith,
is, yes. The
and
audio is
he
very specific.
so it is Vigrith.
Oh, yeah, and then Guthvarr, and
Yeah,
then,
Guthvar, and you were saying like Vigrio.
no, I spelled it. I never audibly said it. There's
You
no
spelled it Vigrio, though.
well, first of all, that's what it looks like, okay? I spelled it as close
I
as you
mean, it
could
is
spell it,
honestly, dude.
like,
It
visually.
is such a liberty that he is taking by doing that. It's like, bro,
I did
you
look
have
for that
3
character.
things that are not in English, and everything else is normal English.
Well, there's
It's like,
about
okay,
8 other characters, like, if you hold down O on an iPhone keyboard, like,
yeah,
it'll
there's a
bring up
ton.
some none of them are what that letter is. Like an
Yeah,
O with
so
an X on the top.
yeah, it's
There
like, why
was
are you making
another
me do this
one,
extra work?
Ulfithnar. There was another one that, like there was one that,
Oh, yeah,
Jarl
like
Storr's Galderwoman, Silrith. That
yeah,
one, I was
Silrith.
never saying Silrith. All the other ones, like Guthvar,
I
for
didn't
some
until
reason,
the
that one
3rd book.
landed.
I mean, I was saying these words wrong in the first 2 books, and then he has this thing at the beginning of this one
Yeah.
where he explains how you say those. Maybe they were in the other ones. I just didn't see it.
Well,
But
because dude, the one that I was saying wrong for sure is Sayerwitch. I was saying Sayerwitch every time in my mind instead of Saith. I don't
Yeah,
e
like Sather. Dude, I was
yeah.
that was one of those things like when Dalinar would hear his wife's name, where some of those words I would just shh over them, and I know what it means when I see it, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Dude, my dog will not stop licking his paws. Rush, thank you.
Alright, where do you wanna
But yeah, that
start
was
with getting
funny.
into this guy? Do you wanna do characters, plot? I'm assuming
Let's talk about the characters, man.
should we go ahead and just rip spoilers? Like, I'm assuming if you're
Yeah, I
watching
guess.
the
Yeah,
3rd
you're
video,
right.
why are we even doing I mean, we've already been talking for
Yeah, I
17
guess
minutes.
if you've
We
read
really
the first 2 books and you haven't read the 3rd one, definitely read it. That's what
okay,
we'll say. It might not
bet.
be as good as the other ones, but you should check it out. So, spoilers from here on out. Yeah. So, characters, plot. What do you think?
Yeah, tell
You
me
tell
who
me,
you
brother.
were saying that there was some characters you really liked and then some that you just were hoping to die. Who were the ones you liked and who were the ones you just were like, "All right, if this person dies, I don't care."
So, the one person that I consistently just
Because what, there's 5 POVs?
yeah. So you got Orca, you have
Guthvar,
Guthvar, you got Biorr, you got Varg,
Elvar.
and
God, I
Elvar.
can already tell who. One of the
Well, here's the thing. So I'll just start there since you say that. Elvar I hated until she finally like made the right
yeah,
decision, but then
true.
he kind of like undermines it for her because she tells Grin she just did it for him. So she didn't even really do it for the right reason, it seems. She just
Yeah.
did it for Grin. But at least she did the right thing. But yeah, I mean, she was just such a loser. It's like, why are we doing this, man?
There
Like,
was to me, that was one of the things that felt so rushed because she was so, like, sure about
yeah,
her decision for so long, and then all of a sudden like, she was pissed at Grind for lying to her, and it's like, "What? This dude's been
yeah,
nothing but loyal to you," and it's like, for her to flip the switch so quick, that felt very rushed to me. Like, it's such an
yeah,
easy move to be like, "Actually, you know what? JK."
yeah.
Like,
And
I get it
someone,
for the, like, strategical move so that, like, if she dies but I don't even know with that, like the strategic move for they can't be controlled by her brother. But I don't think she saw
yeah,
him betraying her.
no,
So,
she definitely didn't. But my whole thing is like, I mean, as someone who claims to enjoy reading history so much, I should have a better appreciation for the fact that
yeah,
he's
it
established
bothers
that
me a lot.
slavery is a part of this culture and it's going to take a while before a character realizes that. But one, I didn't care to sit around and see that character development happen. But two, the execution of it did seem like, okay, we
Yeah,
knew this was going to happen. And then she just kind of does it and then tells Grind it was all for him. But then there's not really much more of a
yeah.
resolution between those characters. But, um,
The only moment that was cool for her wasn't even that, it was at when she dies, and it's really more for Bior's sake. It's not even really for her sake. It's
yeah,
like Biorr
that was one of
realizing
the best moments of the
finally
book when she
yeah.
dies. It was sick.
But because it's him realizing, "Oh, I messed up. This whole
Yeah,
time I've been
which
believing the garbage," and then he finally realizes it's not real.
yeah,
And
which
it's too
that
late.
yeah, Elvar's like middle of the pack for me as far as enjoy like her plot was definitely very enjoyable, but as far as her character and whether or not I cared about her, she was in the middle of the pack. But Biorr was definitely the one that I'm like, bro, I hate this guy. This guy
Yeah.
sucks. Like his was just even more so like, bro, y'all stole children and used them to
It
raise
was
a dragon
tough.
from the
It
dead. It's
was
like,
a
come on,
tough
dude.
pitch for him to be
It's like,
like,
bro,
"Well, dude."
is this really like, and he keeps having opportunities to be like, all right, yeah, we're not doing the right thing here. And he just sucks, dude. Ever since he killed whatever that dude's name was, Ragnar, I'm like, bro, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
But that's, John Gwynne is accomplishing his task, I think, with
Yeah.
that. And I like that he, both Biorr and Guthvarr, he's giving you POVs of people you absolutely do not like. But
Yeah.
Guthvarr, I will say, man, I
I
feel like
like
I
you
didn't
for.
like his chapters in the first two books, but I liked him when I got to him in this
Yeah.
one. Like, it was always funny.
They're so ironic. That's the funny part is, like, he's such an idiot, it was great.
And
Like,
what's
he
really
plays
funny
the
about
role.
it, dude, and, this isn't false humility, this is true. I realized about halfway through the book, I was like, "Oh, I'm Guthvar." Like, I'd be so scared.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not Varg, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm Guthvar, like, I need to accept that. I would be a coward if werewolves or whatever the heck these things are supposed to be were sprinting at me. Um,
Well,
so
his,
that
like,
was a fun
mental
realization
dialogue
for me.
compared to what he was actually saying was so funny. Because 'Cause he'd be
Yeah.
thinking one thing, and then he just says something completely different
Yeah,
there.
it was hilarious. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say all of his characteristics would represent me, but as far as his cowardice in battle and all that, and being
There were
scared to
so
be
many
around
things that seemed so
Leak Rifa or
unnecessary,
whatever.
like his nose always just running.
Always, dude. He's always, which again, dude, I liked the Guthvar chapters. They were fun,
Yeah.
but he was a character where I was like, dude, I'm so ready for this guy to die.
Well,
Um,
that and then Lick Rifa getting his name wrong, like, every time. It was
that
just like
was
there's these
funny.
little tropes that
Yeah,
John
that
just
was
really took
funny.
liberties on.
I mean, that dude had 0 wins, like, throughout this series. I mean,
Him killing
which
that
also
one
feels like it
girl,
would be me.
he kills that one girl, though, just out of spite
Oh,
whenever he
yeah, I
gets the
think
chance.
Estrid, right? Wasn't that the
Estrid,
one he
yeah.
killed? That
Mhm.
was crazy. It's like,
He's on
bro,
his
this guy's
team, and he, like,
sick.
saw an opportunity, and he's
Now
like
that didn't feel like something I would do. I will say that. I was like, "That's a step too far for me. I'm just gonna get out of there." But yeah, that was funny. So, and then,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, I guess
Orka.
that's all. Biorr, I mean, Biorr just I hated I did not like his chapters. I was ready for him to die. But that brings me to, since we're just on these characters that we don't like, and then we'll go back to the ones we do. Those 3 characters, Elvar's death was awesome. It was one of the high points of the book because it did feel like she had grown, even if it was rushed. You have this like grown version
Yeah,
of the character, and then she dies in an epic way and like holds to it and is like, "Yo, I freed him," and she basically is like, "You're a dumb bitch," and then she dies,
yeah.
which was hardcore. She called him out, let him know what was up, and ruined the rest of his
Well, and
3
she had
hours he
kinda
had to
just
live.
bested him too in battle, and then she gets cheap
Yeah.
shot at Murata, so it's kind of like a double.
Yeah, but, so that was sick, but then the other 2 characters that we don't like, which are Biorr and Guthvar, and then the characters we do like, all of their enemies. The characters we do like enemies and the characters we don't like POVs all died in, like, a succession of 4 chapters in a row in, like, the same way back to back, it felt like. Did you
You told
feel
me
like
that
that
before,
was
and then I saw it, and it's like basically them seeing an axe coming at their face, and then they're done. Like, then you
it
don't
happened,
ever
like,
hear
3
from them again.
times in a row, and it was
Yeah.
just like, dude, one of these characters, like, I thought for sure, I was thinking the whole time, which character that we actually like is gonna lose in the end. I
Yeah,
was
we needed
thinking,
to
dude,
lose one.
Guthvar's gonna kill Lif or Varg's gonna end up dying while he's trying to kill Brack or something.
Yeah.
No, dude, they all just win. All the good guys just win, dude. And I was like, is that not? I don't know, dude. It just felt kind of like, oh, it just felt
Spot
kind
on.
of lame.
Yeah. No, I
And
agree. Now that I think about it, no one dies. I mean, the only person who dies,
is Thorkel in
is
the first book.
well, yeah, in the first chapter, yeah.
Yeah,
No, is what's his
which
face?
still hurts, by
The
the way.
leader of the Bloodsworn.
Glornir
He
does
died,
die. His
but
death
that's
is good. I'm glad you say that. His death was sick.
yeah,
They kill Leek Reef and he gets, just barely swatted by her and it kills him, which is kind of crazy because you see him live through so many situations he shouldn't, and then Leek Reef just hits him with like one talon and he's done. That was a
which
good death
again
though.
and that brings us to go ahead and bring out just either copy of the books you have, and let's just do a scale comparison because you're telling me one talon's killing
All
him.
right. Yeah,
That
we do
one
have to talk
talon
about this.
is
And if you're
bigger than his
listening,
body, so
Yeah, if you're listening on audio, this might be a tragedy, but we don't care because no one listens to any of this anyway. But this brings me to a problem that I
How
have in general
big
with a lot of
are these
fantasy.
gods? Yeah.
There's a scale and travel issue in a lot of these books. The
Oh, for
travel
sure.
issue is very common, like,
Yeah.
in one part of the book it takes 6 months by foot, the next part of the book it takes 3 days. Like, it's just ridiculous. But there's a weird thing in these books where, the gods are ginormous. And Snacka, the god who is briefly awake towards the end of this book,
Which is a joke as well.
yeah, he ended
It
up
takes
not being
so
not
long
being
for
that cool.
Snacka to get alive, and then
So that's supposed to be his body
I'll
covering the
show it
entirety
on.
of the continent. Oh, you're gonna show it. Good
Yeah, I'll
idea.
show it to
Dude,
you.
I'm so stupid. I'm such a boomer. Wow. So yeah, so Snacka's body goes across the entirety of the continent of
Yeah.
Vigrid, and it just
In a
doesn't work.
laughable way. In a
It just
literal
doesn't
laughable
work
way.
because as soon as he moved and woke up, I mean, how did the like I'm just wondering, was he like slightly still coiled up or something? Because how did he get over from Snackovic his head and then he dives into the water and then pulls up on the Wolfdales? How is the entire western coast of the continent not gone? I just don't understand. He's supposed to spread across, unless I'm on.
That's
That's
a
supposed
bad
to be his
premise.
whole body, right?
It is. That is a bad premise. I'm sorry. Like, that
It's
was a
just
bad call from
so
the very
it's
beginning.
so unlike, you can't imagine it properly. And then, but what the problem really is with it is in the book, it's not treated that way. And maybe we're misunderstanding the way you're supposed to treat maps and pictures. But it doesn't the map doesn't work for
Yeah.
sure. And
For
and
sure.
it does
You
say in the
gotta
book that the
forgive the
Boneback
picture.
Mountains are Snacka.
Yeah.
So it is reinforced in the book that his body is laid across an entire continent of a mountain range essentially.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up. It's like, if he wakes up, everybody dies. In
No,
my
there's
in my how do
no
you
escape.
live?
No. No.
He's the size of a continent. So the scale was just tough. And then in the book, it was hard to imagine even Leak Refill. I feel like it wasn't tough because, I guess
Yeah.
there wasn't a scene where I couldn't imagine it. But even Ulfrir, there were some times where I'm
How
like, how
big of
big
a
is this
wolf?
tunnel?
Or, yeah,
Like,
how big of a wolf is he?
yeah,
Is
because
he
here again, you can throw up a picture, but for your and I's sake, like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's towering over
Oh, I mean,
like the
there's
base of a mountain.
a full army is not even hurting him a little bit. If that, which again, you gotta forgive the book covers, but you cannot
Yeah,
forgive
maybe
this map.
we're
The map you cannot
the
forgive.
map
The book
is like,
covers
yeah,
are
we're
one
supposed
thing.
to use that for reference, right? Like, that's part of it. So but it's not a problem. The problem is not the maps or the picture. The problem is in the book, it is also constructed the way the pictures appear to be. And it's impossible to imagine a continent-sized snake outside of tunnels in a forest without destroying everything.
Yeah.
How? And
Mhm.
how did they get away? He could have just put his head through the mountain onto the other side and they all would have died, right? I couldn't picture it.
Yeah, I don't,
Um,
and also, there's so little talked about, like, how did it happen? How did they raise him from the dead? There's so many things where I'm like,
yeah, that kind of just happened.
we just gonna that this is where we go into plot, where this is where I feel like things were just quickly tied up for the sake of let's get a book out here and not make the fans wait a long time, which part of
Mhm.
that I appreciate. Like, you're not gonna pull
Yeah,
a George R. R. Martin and, like, we just never get any closure.
sure.
But
I'd
at the
rather you
same
do
time,
this for
it's
sure.
at the expense of just like, so the whole front book of, like, the whole front of this cover, Snackovic is in, like, what? Or Snacka's in what, at what page? This book is like 540 pages, and it, what, like, 480 is when he's entered, and then by
Yeah,
490 or 500 he's gone. So it's like,
yeah.
what? The
Which
whole
I didn't
premise
mind
of this
that so
book.
much, but I
Don't
do
put a good
mind it
cover on the
because
book.
they didn't. Well, yeah, that, but also the whole thing with him being brought to life and then his death is that the heart can be eaten by one of the other gods and make him super powerful. And
Yeah, then
Leekrifa and Rod are about to do it, and then Vesley comes in and steals it, and then you never hear about that heart again. It's like, why didn't Ulfr take it?
yeah,
I'm so confused. Why didn't Vesley drop it in Ulfr's mouth? He's bound to be a benevolent god at this point. Why not just give it to him while he's about to die? you know,
yeah.
it was just, and I mean, obviously he still didn't end up dying, but it's like, why was that entered into the plot?
There
if
was
no one's gonna end up
also
eating the heart. I was even thinking, dude, what if Glornir or Orca or somebody dies and then they give them the heart? Like, I was like, dude, what's gonna happen with the heart?
yeah.
Nothing happens, dude. I was
Yeah.
like, why is that in the plot? That kind of frustrated me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's so many, and then there's so many plot holes there, but then there's no lore. Like the little lore that's placed into it, it's like, so why is Snacka not vibing with Ulfir? Like, what? I'm sure well, maybe it was mentioned,
Dude,
but I
good
mean,
point. No, good point. You were thinking, is he
why
gonna
did he
tell
just?
us that Leek Reef has been putting, lies in his ear, and he thinks Ulfir didn't want like what? Yeah, nothing
What
happens.
was
You
the?
never find out.
There was no backstory beef. Like I think they tried to do some stuff about how Rada like skinned Ulfir's daughter alive, and then the
Yeah,
whole
I got the beef
backstory with
between
Ulfa
the
and Rada.
siblings,
Yeah, but
and I think maybe they did say that Ulfir and his wife Orna were a part of what ended up killing Snaka, maybe, but I don't know because it
well,
kind of
the
makes you
whole
think that
Hrung
maybe Snaka
guy.
just died by accident. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
the ogre
Maybe
on
we're
the
forgetting
wall.
something that was said. It's very possible, but it still they're just it was just in a
And
combination with the heart thing and then the thing with a succession of all the characters you hate dying really conveniently. Because again, when you do that back to back to back, it just kind of all meshed together. I wasn't keeping up with if Orca had a cut on her hip and then later Varg his arm was hurt. Like I'm not keeping up with what
yeah,
happens in these little scuffles. We get through it and it's exciting for a minute, but it was all just kind of the same back to back to back.
yeah,
And again, it was closure. I don't know how I could have done it better, but I don't know. It would have felt better. It sounds crazy, but it just would have felt better if like Varg or Orca, like one of your POV. I mean, Glornir sucked, but if one of them had died, it just would have felt like the stakes had been higher. If Ulfrir had died, the stakes would have felt so much higher. Like, oh, now
yeah,
all the gods are dead because Ulfrir gave his life for something. Like you bound him to an oath I thought that was so cool, dude. And it was never really mentioned that Elvar essentially gave the world a benevolent god who was bound by a blood oath to be a benevolent god.
yeah.
And it's never really talked about. It's like, dude, that's sick. Like,
Yeah,
that's
the
a
good
really
plot
cool
points are
concept.
not emphasized, but the bad plot points are like overly emphasized. That's definitely a good point. So
Yeah, and so again, it should be noted that a lot of these concepts were sick. It just felt like some of them didn't really go anywhere. And
yeah,
maybe maybe some of it was on purpose. Maybe that's next level writing that I'm not appreciating right now, where he just sprinkles it and lets the few who can grasp it and build upon it do what they will with it. Maybe I don't know. Because he obviously is a very good writer, dude. I mean, that other series that I haven't read like is crazy, but the closure on this one is just
dude, this
wild to me. Like it's
it feels
there on
so
paper, literally, but it
it
just didn't
almost feels
feel
like a different
great.
author. Like, this truly does feel like a different author. The only things that are similar are his, like dude, it's just it reminded me, so we've read the Crimson Campaign series, and that reminded me a lot of, like, a lot of military-esque, but I wouldn't have would you wouldn't describe this as anything militaristic, right? There's no, like, strategy,
No, I mean it's Vikings, so it's just they're just brawling
just
essentially. I
numbers,
mean, they
yeah,
had their shield walls and the rows.
yeah.
There
See,
was some like tactics, but
in his
nothing.
other series, he, like, really takes time to like have the characters come up with different strategies that are like military strategies that he like kind of does some history digging in. That's cool. Whereas this,
Yeah.
man, when I'm literally going down the list of things that are in a book, so we have characters, plot, maybe magic system, and world building. Dude, he misses on like almost all of them, which is kind
Yeah.
of when you think about it like that in a sense of like magic systems potentially a good idea, complete miss with the size, like not doing a good job with the size of the characters, but then also like no lore back history. Like there's some, but not enough to make it to where we know and it cares and you matter. The whole heart thing that's just supposedly important, but then also it's like, what are these characters' motives? None of the villains were good in this story. Eventually, like you had a good point when we were on
Yeah.
the phone talking about a story is only as good as its like villain, and that hit because dude, I didn't care about like the villains. Nothing felt deep about them.
Well, it was just the typical Leek Rifa wants to take over all life on
Yeah,
the world, and it's like, okay,
we need
yeah,
more.
all right, we got to kill her, I guess. That is kind of, but so here's one thing I will say, and this is either going to be like maybe close to the truth or either a really insulting thing to say. I'm not sure. Rush, rush, rush. Dude, the lick in the paws, bro. Like I give like
You
I
say
do all
Cheeto.
the things. I do all the things that you do as a dog owner to stop that from happening, and he just won't stop. I take such good care of him, and he treats me like this. Acts like
Like,
he's
own him.
got, allergies that I'm not taking care of. It's just it's hard, man, being me. But anyway, so I told you that I followed and watched a few videos from his sons who have a YouTube, which at first I was thinking, dude, I hope they watch our video about this book. Now I hope they don't because I feel like we're taking a shit on their dad's work. But I think they're both his son, I'm pretty sure. And I think the older one talking about this series mentioned how he was like, this feels like it was written like just for me because I've just wanted like just a pure Viking like story.
Yeah.
So, and not, I don't mean that in like it's simplistic thing, but I feel like he kind of knows like his dad's motive with this series. And I almost wonder if he didn't mean it to be much more than just a high, like an adventure, violent, like lots of battles, not a lot of political, not a bunch of crazy depth, because there is still stuff there. Like you have like Orca's story is great and Varg's story is great. Like Varg, it's weird, dude. Varg almost feels like a side character sometimes, but the book
Yeah.
starts with Varg. That's how it starts with
True.
his POV running from the people that had enslaved him. Um, and those stories are great, but I do wonder. I'm like, maybe he didn't mean for this to be some huge lore, crazy, tactics from the bad guys, and they want this crazy thing that goes back thousands of years in the past. Like, not everything can be, the Stormlight Archive. Not everything's supposed to be. So I do wonder if maybe it's,
It's a
if
fun
John
read.
Gwynne were to hear this, he would think they just completely missed the point of this
Yeah.
series. Like, it wasn't
Maybe.
meant to be more than that. But we had the experience we did, and it wasn't terrible, but it was less than I expected. Once
Yeah.
I got into it, especially because again, there were so many sick things that I just feel like weren't really followed up on, and
I
just
agree.
missed opportunities. And this again, it sounds crazy, but more characters should have died, and that probably sounds hypocritical from a Stormlight Archive Sanderson fan who rarely kills his characters, but it just felt like this story was gonna have it, and it
Yeah.
didn't. So,
True.
you know,
I will say I feel like we haven't mentioned a lot of the good things like you were saying with Varg and Orca. Like, I don't know about you, but I thought Varg's sister was alive the whole time. I don't know why I got that
mm,
like thought process, but for some reason I'm like he's
you played yourself,
mistaken.
man. Don't blame
She's
Jo- don't
there's no
blame
hope
John for
that
that.
she's dead. Yeah. But it just I don't know. Her already being dead, it's just like, I mean, what can you do, man? She's gone. Like I thought there was
Yeah,
gonna be some kind of a spiritual seance where he can talk to her or something, dude. I thought something was gonna happen because even
yeah,
though he kills Drecker, and I guess even Rikia, um, kind of mentioned
Urkia,
Rikia, which
Urkia.
which I like the little romance that goes on with them. That was
Yeah, she was a
satisfying.
great character. So was Vic.
She was
I mean, honestly, all the Bloodsworn are like,
Bloodsworn.
yo, these are the dogs.
Yeah, because they were very unique characters. There was something that you could grab for each of those. They were very unique. Like I could
Yeah.
imagine each and every one of them. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
some of the other
Mm-hmm.
characters, it was just tough. They kind of merged together. But Varg in general, like I just, I guess there was that conversation about like, hey, this is going to do nothing for you if you kill him, the
Yeah.
the leaf
And he's
guy.
like,
And
that's
then
all right. I
also,
still want to kill him. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
exactly. So I mean, I guess that was kind of that. And then same with, I thought Orca's storyline had some of the most closure, I guess, because it ends with them burying Spurt and Glorionir beside Thorkel, and then it's like, hey, let's build
Yeah.
something here. And so I will say there was a little more closure than I thought there was going to be, and not even in the sense of like bang bang pow pow closure, like more just like, hey, maybe we're going to move on from this kind of lifestyle. Maybe not, but
Right. Maybe
maybe we're
not.
at least going to build up something. Which again, um, they just take the kids, right? The like Biorr
Mm-hmm.
tells the one dude, um,
Yeah, you don't know
Prince
where those
Name
other
maybe,
kids are that are with whatever his name is.
because that's what was confusing me at the very end. They were acting. Maybe I just read it wrong. Like there were kids with them. Like they had some tainted because they're like, this is
Maybe
no
they
place
did
for
end
the
up getting
tainted
him.
kid to.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like there were certain things that just, dude. Honestly, and this is honestly more of a testament to how good of a writer I think John Gwynne is as to why I'm disappointed in this book. It'd be different if this was like Jay Kristoff or like Brent Weeks or someone where I'm expecting just a decent, good book.
Shots
And
fired.
that's shots fired. Those guys are good, but they're not elite. Whereas, dude, I had honestly placed John Gwynne in an elite category. And that's why, honestly, it almost brings the rating down because I know how good of a writer he is. If that makes
Mm.
sense, like because the other series was so good, it's like if this was just another name on this series, I'd be like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty good. But because it has his name on it, like I guess the standard is just a little bit higher for me, and that's where it missed. It's like, and again,
yeah.
maybe you're right. Maybe this is like you said, it's built for. This is meant to be more of a straight up Viking story, but it's just name like one like politicking move that happened.
I
Like
mean,
I can't think of
there's like
one.
no government really that you
Yeah.
hear about, so
Well,
there's none
Elvar
of
just
that.
pulls up to her dad's place and just kills him. Like,
Yeah,
and that's it. There's no, it didn't even take like her doing, I mean, the only cunning thing she has is she has a god that's chained up.
yeah. She thralled a god.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. And
Which,
I
dude,
guess
I'm struggling to remember what even happened fully in the first two books because I'm like, okay, because again, you can see everything on the cover. The first book's Lee Krifa, so the first book ends with
go
Lee
to
Krifa coming to
Austria.
life, and then the second book, I think they wake up Ulfrir like in the first couple chapters, right?
I think so, yeah. And then it's more just
Yeah,
Orka trying to get, I mean, I guess she's trying to get what's his face back the whole time.
yeah.
Her
So
son,
again, it's really
Biorr.
enjoyable.
Bjorn.
I wouldn't not recommend this series because of this. I still would, but it would be like a more of a, hey man, if you're looking for something that's like just gonna
It's
be
a
a
quick
fun,
read.
easy read, like
Yeah.
quick, yeah, like this is definitely a good one. Definitely worth it. I still think John Gwynn's a great writer. This one just didn't hit as much as I wanted it to, but still, I give it 4 out of 5. I mean, on a 10 scale, it'd probably be a 7.5.
That's fair to me.
7 point. I'd give it a 7.23.
It's in the sevens, which
So
is
it's
so
still
good.
great. Like it again, it's so it's so funny, and I feel like it's stupid to say this kind of stuff over and over, but like I can't write books, so I'm like sitting here talking about something that I couldn't have done better. But you know, that was just our experience, and
Yeah.
I'm still gonna read that other series eventually.
Yeah, the
The
other
what is it?
series
Malice, Ruin,
yep,
Wrath,
I think that's
Destruction, Death.
the, Faithful and the Fallen, which I will say, I talked to Joseph about this, and this is also very true. I think John Gwynne is just really good at, like, one thing, and this is what he said about there's The Faithful and the Fallen, it's 4 books, and then after that, there's another series in the same world, it's a trilogy, and he said he read the trilogy, and he said it was just okay, and he said he felt it was that way because, like, he kinda already knew John Gwynne's tricks. By that time, you know what I
Mm,
mean? It's like I already
mm,
kind of know his bag of tricks. So it's like, which again, I don't think he uses any of those in this. That's what's almost
hmm,
weird is like he uses the whole like, hey, I'm gonna really. You can tell he studied up on Norse like history, with like
mhm.
the weapons craft and the names and stuff like that. But so that's appreciative. But again, man, it's just the plot, dude. Just there was something missing, dude, from the plot, and I just can't let that go. I truly just cannot.
I mean, fair enough, dude. Fair enough. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's the majority of our thoughts. Which death hurt the most in this entire series for you?
Maybe Spurt,
I
honestly,
was
which is
literally thinking it might be Spurt. I mean, that really sucked. I honestly, I felt like I knew one of the companions were gonna die, and I couldn't decide which one would hurt more, but it hurt.
companions are
Seeing
literally
Spurt
built
in
to
the
die.
I'm trying to think of who else might have acted like an actual human that was like really tough. I mean, Ragnar was definitely tough in that first one because
Ragnar was
Ragnar
tough.
was an
That
OG.
was so uncalled for too. I
Yeah,
mean,
dude,
it
it's
was
just
just
Biorr's been a bitch since the beginning, dude. It's just wild.
you're telling me Merc didn't hit hard for you, man? When Orca literally eats her throat out?
Dude, and that was
That was
wild. I was like, I love that for Biorr's sake. I was like, thank God, dude. Biorr's gonna be so upset, dude. I mean, I hope he throws himself off of Snack's head. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, again, I'd recommend the series, not over others, but depending on what somebody's looking for, think it's pretty all right. John or John's son, if you see this, we didn't mean any of it. Thought it was great. Best book ever.
I'm having to hold in a lot right now, brother. Just want you to know. I want to be so reckless. I just want to go heal, and I can't. It's just not right for the people. But just trust me,
The
people out
people
there
aren't
that
ready yet.
know, no,
We're on our
trust me.
way. We're inching our when somebody does a documentary on this channel, which inevitably will happen, they will look back on these days as like, look, you can see them starting to inch towards their heel phase until it all fell apart.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're not there yet. Um,
no,
maybe
we're
if we
close.
read another what's that
Oh God,
stupid book? Maybe if we read another
hey
what
Jemison,
are those books? The
uh,
Obelisk
the
Gate.
Broken Earth or something
Yeah, maybe if
series,
we read another Broken Earth book, we'll go full heel.
man.
But either
Sick.
way, let us know what you think about whatever in the comments, and we might be back for another one. Any final thoughts?
Dude, something that yeah, I'm curious to see what people's new favorite books coming out are. I will say I saw Anthony Ryan, which he's the guy who wrote that Traitor series.
I saw you add something
The
to your
Martyr.
Goodreads
Yeah,
today
I didn't
by
realize.
him.
I mean, he just I mean, it just shows you I've not really been in tune with the pulse of BookTube. Maybe people just don't care about him
Mm.
anymore. But dude, he is someone who does some really good covers as well. That at least every time I
You
see
mean
one of his
like
covers, I'm like,
a book cover? Like
yes, dude, his
okay.
cover art I love. Like the whole I think the first one is called the last one's called Traitor. Pariah, I think is the first one.
Mm.
Pariah, Martyr,
Yeah, I know what
Traitor.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm curious what people
So
read now.
yeah, let us know what you're reading. Let us know what you'd like for us to cover. I'm sure no one's gonna tell us anything, but if you do have an idea, just tell us. Also, if you have a era of history you'd like us to discuss, let us know because we will be getting back into the nonfiction here as well. I read so many. I'm reading another John Meacham one right now about the relationship between FDR and Winston Churchill. So we'll probably have a little something about that at some point soon. But let us know what you
Dude.
guys think. Tom, I better see you in the comments, bro.
Oh, this one's a D dude. There is no
We are
chance
in.
Tom gets
We are way
46
in
minutes, man.
here. Is my
Tom,
boy
I will Venmo
46
you.
minutes loyal? I don't
Tom,
know.
Tom, comment your Venmo. If you get to this point, comment your Venmo. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. All right, it's the book reviews is out. You guys are the worst. See ya.